relatively high voltage, greater ability to produce a consistent current and lack of any fumes, but the relative fragility of its thin glass enclosure and the necessity of having to raise the zinc plate when the cell is not in use eventually saw it fall out of favor. The cell was also known as the chromic acid cell, but principally as the bichromate cell. This latter name came from the practice of producing the chromic acid by adding sulfuric acid to potassium dichromate. Even though the cell itself contains no dichromate. The fuller cell was developed from the Poggendorff cell. Although the chemistry is principally the same, the two acids are once again separated by a porous container and the zinc is treated with mercury to form an amalgam. Grove cell. The Welshman William Robert Grove invented the Grove cell in 1839. It consists of a zinc anode dipped in sulfuric acid and a platinum cathode dipped in nitric acid, separated by porous earthenware. The Grove cell provides a high current and nearly twice the voltage of the Daniell cell, which made it the favored cell of American telegraph networks for a time. However, it gives off poisonous nitric oxide fumes when operated. The voltage also drops sharply as the charge diminishes, which became a liability as telegraph networks grew more complex. Platinum was and still is very expensive. Dunn cell. Alfred Dunn 1885, nitro-muriatic acid, aqua regis, iron and carbon in the new element. There can be used advantageously as exciting liquid in the first case. Such solutions as have in a concentrated condition great depolarizing power, which affect the whole depolarization chemically without necessitating the mechanical expedient of increased carbon surface. It is preferred to use iron as the positive electrode, and as exciting liquid nitro-muriatic acid, aqua regis, the mixture consisting of muriatic and nitric acids. The nitro-muriatic acid, as explained above, serves for filling both cells. For the carbon cells it is used strong or very slightly diluted, but for the other cells very diluted, about 1/20th, or at the most 1/10th. The element containing in one cell carbon and concentrated nitro-muriatic acid and in the other cell iron and dilute nitro-muriatic acid remains constant for at least 20 hours when employed for electric incandescent lighting. 8. Rechargeable batteries and dry cells. Lead acid. 19th century illustration of Plantes' original lead acid cell. Up to this point, all existing batteries would be permanently drained when all their chemical reactants were spent. In 1859, Gaston Plante invented the lead acid battery, the first ever battery that could be recharged by passing a reverse current through it. A lead acid cell consists of a lead anode and a lead dioxide cathode immersed in sulfuric acid. Both electrodes react with acid to produce lead sulfate, but the reaction at the lead anode releases electrons whilst the reaction at the lead dioxide consumes them, thus producing a current. These chemical reactions can be reversed by passing a reverse current through the battery, thereby recharging it. Plantes' first model consisted of two lead sheets separated by rubber strips and rolled into a spiral. 9. His batteries were first used to power the lights in train carriages while stopped at a station. In 1881, Camille Alphonse Fowler invented an improved version that consists of a lead grid lattice into which he pressed a lead oxide paste, forming a plate. Multiple plates can be stacked for greater performance. This design is easier to mass produce. Compared to other batteries, Plantes is rather heavy and bulky for the amount of energy it can hold. However, it can produce remarkably large currents in surges, because it has very low internal resistance, meaning that a single battery can be used to power multiple circuits. 6. The lead acid battery is still used today in automobiles and other applications where weight is not a big factor. The basic principle has not changed since 1859. In the early 1930s, a gel electrolyte, instead of a liquid, produced by adding silica to a charged cell, was used in the LT battery of portable vacuum tube radios. In the 1970s, sealed versions became commonly known as a gel cell or SLA, allowing the battery to be used in different positions without failure or leakage. Today cells are classified as primary if they produce a current only until their chemical reactants are exhausted, and secondary if the chemical reactions can be reversed by recharging the cell. The lead-acid cell was the first secondary cell. Leclanche cell. In 1866, Georges Leclanche invented a battery that consists of a zinc anode and a manganese dioxide cathode wrapped in a porous material, dipped in a jar of ammonium chloride solution. The manganese dioxide cathode has a little carbon mixed into it as well, which improves conductivity and absorption. 10. It provided a voltage of 1.4 volts. 11. This cell achieved very quick success in telegraphy, signaling, and electric bell work. A 1912 illustration of a Leclanche cell. The dry cell form was used to power early telephones, usually from an adjacent wooden box affixed to fit batteries before telephones could draw power from the telephone line itself. The Leclanche cell cannot provide a sustained current for very long. In lengthy conversations, the battery would run down, rendering the conversation inaudible. 12. This is because certain chemical reactions in the cell increase the internal resistance and, thus, lower the voltage. Zinc carbon cell, the first dry cell. Many experimenters tried to immobilize the electrolyte of an electrochemical cell to make it more convenient to use. The Zamboni pile of 1812 is a high-voltage dry battery but capable of delivering only minute currents. Various experiments were made with cellulose, sawdust, spun glass, asbestos fibers, and gelatine. 13. In 1886, Karl Gassner obtained a German patent, 14, on a variant of Leclanche cell, which came to be known as the dry cell because it does not have a free liquid electrolyte. Instead, the ammonium chloride is mixed with plaster of Paris to create a paste, with a small amount of zinc chloride added in to extend the shelf life. The manganese dioxide cathode is dipped in this paste, and both are sealed in a zinc shell, which also acts as the anode. In November 1887, he obtained U.S. Patent 373,064 for the same device. Unlike previous wet cells, Gassner's dry cell is more solid, does not require maintenance, does not spill, and can be used in any orientation. It provides a potential of 1.5 volts. The first mass-produced model was the Columbia dry cell, first marketed by the National Carbon Company in 1896. 15. The NCC improved Gassner's model by replacing the plaster of Paris with coiled cardboard, an innovation that left more space for the cathode and made the battery easier to assemble. It was the first convenient battery for the masses and made portable electrical devices practical, and led directly to the invention of the flashlight. The zinc carbon battery, as it came to be known, is still manufactured today. In parallel, in 1887 Wilhelm Heliesen developed his own dry cell design. It has been claimed that Heliesen's design preceded that of Gassner. 16. In 1887, a dry battery was developed by Seikis Yai, of Japan, then patented in 1892. 17. 18. In 1893, Seikis Yai's dry battery was exhibited in World's Columbian Exposition and commanded considerable international attention. Nisidi, the first alkaline battery. In 1899, a Swedish scientist named Waldemar Jungner invented the nickel-cadmium battery, a rechargeable battery that has nickel and cadmium electrodes in a potassium hydroxide solution, the first battery to use an alkaline electrolyte. It was commercialized in Sweden in 1910 and reached the United States in 1946. The first models were robust and had significantly better energy density than lead-acid batteries, but were much more expensive. 20th century, new technologies and ubiquity. Size year introduced D1898AA1907 AAA191119V1956. Nickel-ion. Nickel-ion batteries manufactured between 1972 and 1975 under the Exide brand, originally developed in 1901 by Thomas Edison. A set of modern batteries. Waldemar Jungner patented a nickel-ion battery in 1899, the same year as his NiCad battery patent, but found it to be inferior to its cadmium counterpart and as a consequence, never bothered developing it. 19. It produced a lot more hydrogen gas when being charged, meaning it could not be sealed, and the charging process was less efficient. It was, however, cheaper. Seeing a way to make a profit in the already competitive lead-acid battery market, Thomas Edison worked in the 1890s on developing an alkaline-based battery that he could get a patent on. Edison hoped that if he produced a lightweight and durable battery, electric cars would become the standard, with his firm as its main battery vendor. After many experiments, and probably borrowing from Jungner's design, he patented an alkaline-based nickel-ion battery in 1901. 20. However, customers found his first model of alkaline nickel-ion battery to be prone to leakage, leading to short battery life, and it did not outperform the lead-acid cell by much either. Although Edison was able to produce a more reliably and powerful Model 7 years later, by this time the inexpensive and reliable Model T Ford had made gasoline engine cars their standard. Nevertheless, Edison's battery achieved great success in other applications such as electric and diesel-electric rail vehicles, providing backup power for railroad crossing signals, or to provide power for the lamppost in mines. 21. 22. Common alkaline batteries. Until the late 1950s, the zinc-carbon battery continued to be a popular primary cell battery, but its relatively low battery life hampered sales. The Canadian engineer Louis Yory, working for the Union Carbide, first at the National Carbon Company in Ontario and, by 1955, at the National Carbon Company Palmer Research Laboratory in Cleveland, Ohio, was tasked with finding a way to extend the life of zinc-carbon batteries. 23. Building on earlier work by Edison, Yory decided instead that alkaline batteries held more promise. 24. Until then, longer-lasting alkaline batteries were unfeasibly expensive. Yory's battery consists of a manganese dioxide cathode and a powdered zinc anode with an alkaline electrolyte. Using powdered zinc gives the anode a greater surface area. These batteries were put on the market in 1959. Nickel hydrogen and nickel metal hydride. The nickel hydrogen battery entered the market as an energy storage subsystem for commercial communication satellites. 25. 26. The first consumer-grade nickel metal hydride batteries, NiMH, for smaller applications appeared on the market in 1989 as a variation of the 1970s nickel hydrogen battery. 27. NiMH batteries tend to have longer lifespans than NiCd batteries, and their lifespans continue to increase as manufacturers experiment with new alloys, and, since cadmium is toxic, NiMH batteries are less damaging to the environment. Lithium and lithium-ion batteries. Lithium-ion battery curve of price and capacity of lithium-ion batteries over time. The price of these batteries declined by 97% in 3 decades. Lithium is the metal with lowest density and with the greatest electrochemical potential and energy-to-weight ratio. The low atomic weight and small size of its ions also speeds its diffusion, suggesting that it would make an ideal material for batteries. 28. Experimentation with lithium batteries began in 1912 under American physical chemist Gilbert N. Lewis. but commercial lithium batteries did not come to market until the 1970s in the form of the lithium-ion battery. 29, 30, 3-volt lithium primary cells such as the CR123A type and 3-volt button cells are still widely used, especially in cameras and very small devices. 3 important developments regarding lithium batteries occurred in the 1980s. In 1980, an American chemist, John B. Goodenough, discovered the LiCu2, lithium cobalt oxide, cathode, positive